here. This is Team Australia, or a good bit of it. We've got Pete Clarke, who was the team manager, Phil Gore, who went 76 yards, the assist, Ryan Crawford with 75, and Rob Parsons, who got 73. And I've heard bits and pieces of the story, so I'm hoping to get it all through to you today. And since the team manager, me and Tense Pete both know as the most important person, there was an adventure before the race, as I understand, in terms of working all summer on a course that then got flooded out and having to cobble together a new course at the last minute. Is this somewhat accurate?
Part of about it, Laz, the most difficult part about it was if it was our own event, we could have, if it was purely our own event, we could have probably just postponed it or left it for a week, because Victoria was flooded. It was kind of a state of emergency situation. And all these guys had flown in, the ones you're talking to had flown in from interstate, and the clock was ticking. It was starting at 11 p.m. whether we wanted to or not, and we had to find a course. But the ace up our sleeve just kind of landed in our lap, in the sense that they shut the road. You know, it's the dirt road alongside Miriam Island. They shut that because part of it had become impassable. And we thought, wow, we can just use the road. And it actually became a simple solution out of a very stressful situation.
The race starts before the race ever actually starts. It's just lucky you had everyone in there before the road was flooded out.
Exactly. And well, I mean, runners arriving, and Phil tried to arrive the night before and discovered an impassable road and had to park his camper van in the nearest town, Romsey, for the night. We basically moved the barrier to allow people to get in. There's almost a private road into the property. So we made sure we got all the runners there, and then we replaced the road closed signs so that no one else could come or go. And it was almost exactly the right, we had about 4 kilometers of road. So it was almost exactly right for an out and back. The turnaround was just before the road closed sign. So from the corral, run out to the road and turn right, keep going straight for about 3 kilometers, turn around and come back. And it kind of worked out perfectly as a course, even though a straight out and back is probably not the ideal backyard ultra. Maybe it's the ideal one for a team championship format.
Certainly worked out well for y'all. And the other thing that stood out in my mind that I thought had to be, all of you were involved in this, when your team is finished and the Japanese still have runners on the course and you're watching them inch up on you. How intense does that get?
Well, for me, as soon as my race was over, I was in bed and I was asleep. And by the time I got up, the Japanese had finished. But yeah, still got to watch the Belgians keep going. But yeah, as it was with the Japanese, I woke up and saw that we'd finished 3 laps ahead of them. So I was pretty happy about that.
It was better probably not to have to sit and watch.
Yeah, by that point, I just wanted to crash. I just wanted to go to sleep, and I wasn't really too concerned about what anyone else was doing at that point.
For me, this is where Rob's contribution comes in, because having the extra people gave us that buffer. So I think Rob was probably 10 yards longer than the previous person, and that, to me, that gave us another buffer of 10 yards on top of the Japanese. Could have made the difference. I haven't really looked at the details of how it panned out, but that's how I looked at it.
That was one of the other great stories out of it, because in the team championship, everybody's important. And what I understand is that Rob did the dead Pete, where you barely finish under the time limit, but you go back and barely finish under the time limit and then do it again and again. Those laps were the difference.
Yeah, I think that was sort of my strategy right from lap 1. I'm pretty sure 95% of the laps I was the last person in, and that was what I planned to do from the start. And being an engineer, I've graphed all of my lap times to look at them. So they ranged from the fastest lap being about 47:30-ish, 47 minutes and a bit, and then my slowest lap was about 52 minutes. So I had about a 4-minute range there, and averaged pretty much exactly 50 minutes per lap every lap for the 73 laps, with very little deviation. So that's what I planned going in to do it that way. I figured I'm not very good at napping, so I didn't take Phil's approach of running fast to get a longer sleep. I went with expending as little energy as I possibly could and just taking a small amount of time to recover before going back out again.
It was quite a performance. I think that all the teams that did well had somebody who got a bunch of extra yards. That seems to be, well, more important than how far the first guy gets is how far the middle of the team gets. So Phil got back the Australian record again. I understand.
Yeah, that's right. So it was 59. And yeah, the three of us got to 59 and kept pushing on after that. And yeah, I didn't know how much further we'd go. I knew that everyone sort of had that Australian record in their sights. But yeah, to go like another 20 or so laps after that was, yeah, pretty impressive.
Very impressive. Australia was really kind of a surprise. I didn't think that y'all would finish as high up as you did, but you really had a great performance from top to bottom.
Yeah, I think we had a good team all around. Yeah, like I think our strength was in our consistency. Like we did have a lot of people hang on like a lot further than their PBs. I think it was 11 out of 15 of us PB'd, and yeah, those PBs, it wasn't just like one lap. Some of them were PBing by 10 or 20 laps. So
I know I got to see some of y'all's intro videos earlier tonight, and everyone seemed really keyed in on Team Australia. Between the three of you or the four of you, do you think really running for your country is different than just running for yourself?
Really cool, like a different vibe, I guess, to some of the other. I've only done 2 other backyard ultras before this one. And in those, you're always, especially in the early stages, you're always helping people, or you want, it's a real sort of camaraderie around trying to get everyone out to do another lap. But it was sort of different on this, it was probably more that way in this because you knew you were all adding up. Everyone's lap mattered. So I think not only from each person trying to encourage their teammates to keep going, you kind of had that other thought in your head that, oh, if I stop, it's just for me, like I'm the only one that that'll be upset tomorrow that I stopped. Whereas when you've got the team there, you're like, oh, I've got to keep going because, people are counting on the laps that I'm putting in to add up to the score. So it kind of added that extra little bit to the motivation, I think, to keep going out lap after lap.
Well, making the podium by 3 laps, I think everyone that did an extra lap has to feel pretty damn good about it.
Yeah, it's pretty tight.
Yeah.
So y'all are in 3 different time zones?
So I'm at just past midday where I am in Perth.
I'm 2 o'clock Queensland.
And I guess I'm in the middle with 3 o'clock in Melbourne. Just on the Team Australia vibe, one of the things I liked in the event, and you know how hard it is to communicate with runners during the event, so we didn't really try to do much of that at all, except for towards the end where we were looking at where we were on the podium and we were calling out how many runners were left. And I think we had 3 of the last 11 or 12 runners in the world still in Australia, and we were trying to call things like that out. But one of the things that worked for me well in terms of the Team Australia aspect was because it was an 11 p.m. start, we weren't really able to do a decent team photo at the start without it being light and everything. And so we agreed we'd do one the next day during the day in the light. And somehow the word got around the runners in the corral before the start for everyone to put on the Team Australia shirts. And I think it was maybe at about 16 or 17 yards in, that all of the runners during the transition went and got the Team Australia shirts on and all lined up for a photo together in the corral as like a team photo before the start of one of the yards. And
yeah, that would be pretty good. That's one thing I wondered about, because I think the Japanese team wasn't really certain exactly where they stood in relation to y'all because when we talked about it being 3 yards down, it would be really hard not to try to find something extra. Now, I was watching the leaderboard from here the whole race. Do you think that people will have somebody assigned to watch the leaderboard? Because I think what happened to some teams, everyone's been up for 70 hours. So nobody is really looking at the leaderboard with a clear head and understanding the implications in terms of the score.
So my crew kept an eye on it, and they told me every now and then, and we'd kind of talk about it, like when we'd go out on course and we're all running together. Like if someone's checked the leaderboard or heard an update, we kind of discuss it. But yeah, it wasn't like every lap everyone was informed. And but yeah, I think we're just we didn't need to know every lap. We just we're going to push on regardless of where everyone else is standing. But yeah, we just had that. Yeah, we're all out there to try and get as many laps as we could. So
we got a couple of runners ahead early on, or in the middle part of the race, and so always our extra people that were just hanging on, they knew they were picking up laps every time, and I think that's where we built our lead was really being attentive to the fact you're the extra man. You're the extra man.
A couple of times about where we were sitting, but yeah, I think that would probably make a big difference if you always knew exactly where you were sitting. But I think all of us are all kind of just on our own mission, as well as, just doing as good as we can do for Australia. But we weren't really focused on other countries, to be honest. I didn't think. Anyway, did.
So in 2024, then Team Australia will be on top of the podium.
Good one. That's the plan.
Yeah, we'll have to try.
We got to come over to your place first and do some demolition.
I'm looking forward. There will be a healthy number of Australians here, I believe. We don't even have to, and we don't have to worry about all the visa stuff. Do y'all have to do? There was some kind of paperwork I had to do. Pete probably could tell you more about it. Do they have to do that to come to the U.S.?
I don't think we need to anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was trying to get there last year, and there was a lot of sort of paperwork we needed to do just with all the COVID and stuff. And that's when I'd emailed you and asked you for a letter. So yeah, thanks for that. But at the end of the day, there was just too many other hurdles to jump through for me to get there. Well, actually getting there wasn't the problem, but getting back, I couldn't get back into WA. I could only get back into one of the eastern states, and from the eastern states, I couldn't get back into WA. So yeah, wasn't able to make it. But next year, I think it's going to be a lot more straightforward. We're all pretty much traveling back to normal now, so yeah, we shouldn't have any dramas.
I don't think that the paperwork I had to fill out was a big deal. It was just really confusing. And if I hadn't had Nicole helping me on y'all's end, I don't know if I ever could have figured it out.
Yes.
But I'm an old hillbilly that lives in the woods. So
we assigned a person in our crew to getting lads here, to getting through the paperwork. But for an Australian to visit the US, there's a thing called it's kind of a visa waiver scheme, and you only have to apply online and pay $16 48 hours before. All of the complication back then was around COVID and vaccination rules and all the rest of it. Assuming there's no more pandemics, touch wood, Australians getting to the US will be straightforward next year. What I'd like to point out, I think, I haven't done the numbers, but I think that outside of the Team USA, there might be more Australians at Bigs than any other country. Obviously, there's time for things to change, but I think we've got 7 or 8 Australians in the field at the moment. Some of them are low down, so they could get knocked off, but maybe we'll have 7 or 8 Australians at Bigs next year.
I think I can check that. Actually, I had that up. Looking through Australians, I see Phil Gore, Rob Parsons, Ryan Crawford, Rob Parsons, Ben Nichols.
Yep.
That's one of yours, isn't it? John Yoon.
Yep.
Tim Kaprazak. Someone can tell me now how to say that.
No one knows.
Tim K.
Yeah, we just go with Tim K.
And I think Kevin Muller's in there as well.
I got a Ross McPhee, Chris Murphy, Aaron Young, Marge Hadley, Sam Harvey. Oh wait,
Sam
I'm
Harvey's a
confusing
Kiwi.
some New Zealanders because I'm looking at little bitty tiny flags.
All of those are Australians except for the Sam person. Margie's one of ours. I wasn't sure that she was on the. I guess she would be. She was
Yeah.
one of the 40s, wouldn't she? Yeah, she's also from WA.
I thought Margie just missed out because I thought the bottom of the list was 50 or 51.
Yeah, I thought it was John Newman was the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So
But
are
Kevin
all
Muller
us
should be
three
on there as well.
guaranteed in, Laz?
Yeah, the flag I'm looking at is about 1/8 the size of a postage stamp. So Australia and New Zealand look a great deal alike.
How about Chetan Sadhana? I see that name on the wait list as well for Australia.
Chetan declined his spot on the Australia team. I'm guessing that Phil or one of the WA guys might know more about him.
Okay.
How many yards does he have?
Chetan has 18. No, sorry, 49.
49.
So he would be just below the. Right now, it looks like the cutoff is at 51.
51.
Then
Right.
you have to see how many can actually make it here.
Right. 'Cause, I was thinking Chetan is a very Indian name, so I wasn't sure if he's playing the dual citizenship, choosing to run for India or Australia. But India does not allow dual citizenship, so if he has an Australian flag next to him, I think he is an Aussie now, I guess.
As far as I could tell, he's an Aussie, a Western Australian ultra runner. Phil, do you know Chetan? I'm sure you would know, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so he was my assist at Hurley's. So he was on 49. I think he just missed the cutoff.
And there's one more on the wait list, Ross McPhee.
I think Kevin Muller should be on there as well. So he got 58 at the Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually compete in the satellite chance. He had something else on. But he should still be on there, at large list.
Okay. Oh yeah, Kevin Muller, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's 7. It might be 8 Australians, which is almost 10% of the field that picks, if it pans out like that.
Well, you got, you may have some knocked off by bigger distances during the year, but you've got a whole year to collect some bigger distances of yourself.
Exactly.
Have some
So
people
we've also
come
got the
out of
Australian
nowhere.
Masters coming up in June. Might get some big totals there.
Yeah.
That's
As
the
I
big
see it, that's the
invitational.
chance for more Aussies to get into the podium will be that event. And if you guys can get them up into the 60s and 70s, then we'll get more people through.
And you'll kill a race director.
Yeah.
So, Pete, did you stay up for the whole 76 hours?
Didn't. My pattern was generally trying to be there 10 minutes before the start of each yard and then going off and getting as much rest as I could in between them. And unfortunately, as a result of that, I missed quite a lot of people timing out and not finishing. So I feel like a lot of people left the event without me being there because I was only there at the start of each of the yards. It was pretty grueling, lads. I can't pick the 4 nights apart now, really, starting at night.
So you rang the bell 76 times.
I think I might have missed 2 or 3 starts in the whole thing. The other Peter and I kind of occasionally would say to each other, right, you got the next 3, or I've got the next 3. And we had some other people on the first 2 nights that helped us as well, but it was grueling. Obviously not as grueling as for the runners, but it's tough.
So out of the 3 of you here, who is going to win who's going to win at Biggs next year?
I think we're all going to give it a good crack.
Yeah,
we just have to see if we can maintain the consistency in our training and all that.
None of you have been here before. You know that the Biggs Trail, the daytime loop, has got a little dicey footing.
Yeah, I've heard about the course. Haven't been there, but I've heard about it. So Chris Murphy was our Australian who went there last year, so I've chatted to him about it. But yeah, definitely a bit different to the courses that I'm used to over here.
We have bridges. We have 5 bridges across the creeks, so that should help a lot. There's no loose pallets to have to jump over.
They didn't have to do the pallets, Laz, though they got let off that on this iteration.
Actually, you would have had to have had a pontoon bridge down there, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, it was no way. It would have probably been 50 meters wide, the creek on that weekend.
Oh, does anyone have something they would like to add here before we?
I'd just like to say that I'm looking forward to coming over to meet you personally and yeah, have a go at your race and hope you'll lead to bigger things in the future. So yeah, that's for me personally. I can't wait. So.
Well, me and the dogs walk on that trail every day and think about the people that are coming.
As soon as I got home, I started figuring out what flights I'd have to take to get to Tennessee. So starting to plan early and hopefully can hold on to the spot on the wait list until next year, but can't wait to get out there and give it a go.
I think you'll be pretty safe on the list, Rob. Going to need about 30 people to get more than 73 laps. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to coming over and meeting you, Laz. And I just want to say thanks for bringing this concept to the world. Yeah, I've just found my calling with it, I think. Just something I really enjoy and can run quite a long way with it. So
it changes things up as far as no one can run away with a race. And we find a lot of people are stepping up. You know, good runners are good runners. The good athletes are always going to be good athletes. And then people you didn't think of that they always had the mental toughness, but in the straight out races, people could run off and leave them. When you can't run off and leave anybody, you've got to out tough them. And some of these
I think that's the only reason.
tough.
That's the only reason I'm here on the call, I think, Laz, is because I can't keep up with Ryan and Phil. There's a few times even late on in the race, you know, in the 60s sort of laps, I tried to stick with Ryan for a little bit, but like it was just too fast for me. So like I can't run as fast as these guys at all. So this format, like this is the highest I've ever ranked in any race, is coming third. So I think thanks to this format, I can actually mix it with the people at the front of the pack.
It's a good place. A championship race is a good place to have your best ranking ever.
To know, Rob, I don't think I got to talk to you about this afterwards. Did you have another one? What was your timing out like? I remember coming to the fire drum. It was nighttime, and I was surprised to see you sitting there. And I was, oh shit, you didn't make the last yard. What was your finish like? Yeah,
so look, probably disappointing for me. It was more of a mental burnout that stopped me. So I didn't go into the race with the right mental headspace, I guess. Like I went in the previous race I did. You know, people asked me what my goal was, and I said my goal is to win, right? Because the first race I did, I stopped early, and I could have kept going. So the second race I ran until I couldn't get back to the start line in time, and I timed out. And this race, because I was unsure, it was only about 8 weeks before I think I did that previous race, and it took me a couple of weeks to be able to get running again. And so really my headspace, like the two things I had in my head was don't be the first person to drop out, and I want to do more laps than last time. And so by the time I got to sort of 72, I think it was coming in on lap 72, like I was just done mentally. Like physically I was still okay, and sleep wise I was still okay. You know, I guess it was tolerable. I wasn't great, but I was all right. And I got to sort of lap 72, and I told my wife, who was my crew, I said, oh look, I'm done. Like I still came in 50 minutes, and I said, look, I don't think I'm not going to go out and do another one. You know, I had in my head, it was one of those sort of dark moments where I'm like, I don't think I can win this. Why will I keep going? And she said, look, you're on 72. That's a milestone. People will drop out on that number. So at least go out and do another lap and then talk to me when you get back. So she kicked me out of the chair, and I went and did another lap and came back in. And, you know, I look back at it now, and I'm on one side, I'm disappointed. On the other side, I'm content and happy with how well I did. And at the end of the day, you know, I was feeling okay-ish after 73 laps, but, you know, in my head now, I'm like, could I have done 75, 76? I could have done 74 and not made it back. You know, it can change that quickly that you really don't know. But for me, it was really mentally. I didn't mentally prepare myself to run for that long. So that was a 29-yard PB for me. So it was a whole day longer than I expected to run for. And yeah, I guess I didn't mentally prepare myself well enough to do that. So I'm definitely not going to make that mistake again. That's for sure.
I think you looked the freshest out of all three of us by that third day, by the end of that third day. And yeah, I was surprised when you dropped out because I thought you were just going to keep going and going.
Yeah, next time.
Well, that's a really good question to ask Ryan as well, because we all know why Phil stopped. What was the process that happened, Ryan, when you came to your 75th lap and decided it was time to? Did you decide it was time, or did you start 76 and just didn't make it?
I started 76 and I was breaking for a while, to be honest. Like just the sleep got me. On that second day, I kind of, after I look back on it, probably took it for granted a bit and wasn't doing my micro naps like I normally do as much, and was probably getting back a bit later than I would normally get back on laps. And, in between each lap, I'd usually get back with 15, 20 minutes. And this one was only getting back like 12 minutes kind of thing. And yeah, I just lacked getting that sleep on that second day. So on that third day, like I just thought I'd be fine. And yeah, it ended up just coming to get me, and I was just getting delirious by the end of it. And I was seeing a few things, and my mind was just having a lot of trouble problem solving, really. And when I was getting in those low moments, I was just starting to get real agitated. And I just, in the end, I went out on that 76 lap, and I just had a gut full of it, to be honest. It was like, I never do these things for the win or for the, it's just for me a challenge against myself. And sometimes when I break, I just I don't care about the event or whatever. I'm just like, I'm done. And I just lie down on the road. And then Phil was just a little bit in front of me. And then I think I was about 2K in, and then he come back past, and I'm just like, yeah, man, I'm done. So when you get back, just send someone in a car to come get me, and I just lying on the dirt road. And yeah, you're always like anything when you're fresh and you're back home showered and you're comfortable. I look back and go, why the hell did I? But at the time, sleep destroyed me. It was probably the deepest I'd gone with no sleep. Like, really, easy 40, 50 hours, no sleep kind of thing. So I was just cooked.
I think it might have been late 60s, early 70s laps, Ryan. I remember walking up the hill at the start of the lap with you, and I couldn't understand what you were saying. You sound like you drank a bottle of whiskey or something. Like you were slurring your words. You weren't making any sense.
Remember when I thought I seen Tim driving the tractor as well? I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I was definitely getting a bit wild, that's for sure. And
I
that's
was pretty impressed you hung on for as long as you did when you were that deep on the sleep deprivation side. Like you were really struggling on the sleep side.
Well, that's all that got me, really. Like, I know physically and that kind of stuff, I wasn't too bad. Like, you saw, like, jacked up like we were, but that's what was getting me in my mind. I just couldn't process a lot of the stuff, and then I was just starting to snap, and it was a bit, you guys didn't see all the stuff. And when I was in the tent, I was wigging out a bit too, just getting agitated with everyone. You learn from them.
When Phil came in on lap 76, and I didn't know as he was coming in that he'd won because Ryan was still there, but just as he touched the gate, he turned around and said, Ryan's not going to make it. He's a couple of Ks out. So you should probably go check on him. And because it was a pretty cold night, it was actually freezing cold. The priority for me was to go and make sure that Ryan was good. So we got the car, and some of us had a dog out. And Peter drove out in the car because we didn't want him lying on the cold on the side of the road. So we kind of missed a bit of the celebration at the end. But we went and got Ryan and kind of peeled him off the road and drove him back to the house and got everyone down to the house. And I think Ryan, your crew person, managed to get you into the shower. So you had a quick shower, and then you came and laid down on the sofa in the house. And you just lay there smiling for about 5 minutes while we were chatting. And we
went to the bloody airport.
Debriefing. Yeah, this is what I was going to say. And then suddenly you jumped up and said, right, I got a plane to catch. Went back up and packed all your stuff and went to the airport.
Yeah, it was a bloody mission, I tell you.
No way I would have got on that flight.
Oh, mate, I got to the airport and the people would look at me like, what, thinking that we'd just been on the drugs for like weeks or something. And I'm just like, mate, I told them what was going on. Everyone helped us. And then, yeah, it was all good. So I didn't sleep till I got back on the plane, and then I just slept the whole trip back. And then I was fine. I drove home after that. I drove my car back from the airport back home, which was like an hour drive. And it was literally, I just needed a little bit of sleep, and then I was fine. So
Yeah.
You just needed a flight of sleep. How long does it take y'all to turn around after these to where you're back to feeling normal and sleeping normal nights?
just a couple of days.
I'm still working on it. A lot of the time I'm really good. I can run the next day, but this time it was a week and a half before I was out running again. My legs are swollen for like 2 days. But yeah, this is definitely the longest I've ever pushed myself. So it's probably to be expected.
I think I finished Wednesday morning, and it wasn't until Sunday, I think, that my head felt like it was screwed on properly. Like I went to work, so we finished Wednesday. I went to work on Thursday, and I didn't contribute much at work. I mentally, I just was not there. Probably for about 2 days or 3 days until I'd had a couple of good nights sleep, and then even on Saturday, I still didn't feel quite right. And it probably took till about Sunday for my head to be clear and be thinking straight, and so it was whatever that is, 4 days I think to catch up and feel normal again.
Of course, y'all have unlimited numbers of. I feel like that from my perspective, I'm getting better at how I deal with the 5-minute sleeps every hour as a instead of having any long sleeps, and that my recovery as far as the sleep aspect is getting faster.
Conditioning.
I did do what Ryan did as far as it was in the third day. For some reason, I decided I didn't need my 5-minute naps anymore. And so I probably went 10 or 12 hours without taking one of them. And that really hit me pretty hard. It was a mistake. I don't know why that I felt like, I've transcended sleep. Now I can get by entirely without it.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
It doesn't work, does it?
Then it felt like the Grim Reaper was coming to get me. But oh well, you learn and you evolve, and I still like the experience. Each one provides some kind of challenge.
So speaking of people being really sleep deprived, I can think of a couple of moments that I saw. One of them was you, Ryan, and it was probably on about 73 or 74, and we were sitting around that barrel that's quite near the entrance to the corral when you came in, and the only words I could hear you say were the words "depths of hell."
Well, that was when I come back from a good lap.
Yeah, that was at the end of one. I don't know what you were saying at the start.
Yeah, because I remember I think I was lying on the bloody hay bale, the one before it broken. And then I went out and charged a lap to try to get back. And then I was just, I was saying, I'm come back from the depths of hell. And then I hit the wall again about 10 seconds later.
That's right. There was the one where you didn't make it back to your tent at all. You just lay on the hay
just over the hay bale. That was when I started breaking and just getting agitated. And I'm probably best being left alone when I'm like that, because I was getting annoyed at everyone, to be honest, but that's my own stuff I had to deal with.
The other moment I remember was, I don't know if any of you would have heard this, was Tim Kay, quite far into towards his event. I was sitting at the same place when he came into the corral, and he said, "I'm done, this is over for me." And I said to him, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "I knew it was done when I came in, and this whole place had turned into a spaceship."
Tim Kay. One of the things I most anticipated was learning how to say that name.
I don't think anyone tried.
I can send you his video, Laz, that he did in his profile as well. But even when I watched it myself, I couldn't quite pick up how he said it. So I'll send you that. And you can hear it from him.
I think I will say, Laz, quickly, is I want to come do your Barclay. I know I've been hassling you, but that's my main goal, to be honest. So one day I'll get there.
If you come and win big next year.
Yeah, well, that'll be the plan, hopefully. So
that's a hell of an award for winning bigs.
Yeah.
To the Barclay.
It's always been on my torture radar. So yeah, one day.
It's just good, clean fun. except it's not clean and it's not fun.
And I know that. I'm well aware of that.
And it's not good.
Well, anyone have any parting words of wisdom for us?
I think it's great if we're able to have the next satellite event in WA, because half the field was from WA and they've got their own culture of backyards there. So I think that'll be cool for the next round.
Queensland.
It's the other half of the field will have to fly.
Yeah, the other half will have to fly, but they'll get your easy courses. So
I don't think that the rest of the world really appreciates the complications of having a national team where half your team is going to have to fly or take 2 weeks off just to get there.
Yes, we only had, I think, 3 Victorians, so everyone else was traveling. Tasmania, New South Wales, Queensland, and WA. 7 of them in WA.
Now they're pretty stressed out over there in the WA.
Well, I hear this from Phil, but I don't think I doubt anyone had realized how real the flood emergency was until they actually landed in Victoria and saw the rain and saw the state of the roads and everything.
Yeah, we was kind of watching the weather before we came over, and we saw there was a bit of rain. It's like, oh, probably going to get a bit wet this weekend. But yeah, didn't realize that the whole course was going to be underwater basically. So, but I think it worked out for the best anyway, getting to run on that road, because I don't think we would have got as far as we did running on the paddock.
And it didn't rain during the event, amazingly. We had that week of rain before it. We had 4 days of clear, and then it started raining.
There was a couple of laps there where we got some light rain.
Yeah.
So I remember taking the rain jacket out. But yeah, it wasn't really anything to be concerned about.
It was. I was watching the weather in 37 countries for the week before the race, and there was a lot of excitement. But my big question on y'all seeing where the rain was and where the flooding was were your runners going to get there? Were they all going to be stranded in the airport in Melbourne? But you managed to get them all out there. You didn't have a bushfire like South Africa. And you didn't have a bear on the course like Canada. I don't know if you knew those
could have
things.
been worse.
The Canadians had to run in bunches. Yeah.
And Finland as well had to stop because of their storms.
They
had some power lines come down on the course or something.
They had 100-mile-an-hour winds, which that's the upper end of a Category 1 hurricane. And so the wind itself would have probably made it impossible to finish a loop in an hour. It wouldn't matter whether it was behind you or in your face. But they had power lines down all over the course. It had just been the wind taking them out for that 1 hour. They could have broke off and continued. It wouldn't have been part of the competition, but to pick a champion. But no one was going to go out and run with power lines down, not even the Finns.
That's fair enough.
So they're going to have a runoff in April between the 3 runners that were still on the course when the hurricane hit.
Was there also a marriage proposal during it? Or did I dream that?
And I don't know. There could have been. That seems to ring a bell.
Yeah, there was. I don't remember which country, but after finishing, I think the guy proposed, and we were
Vietnam.
Yeah, Vietnam. Yeah. So we were all joking as if this guy didn't go through enough pain. He went and did this thing after going through what backyard is.
It's probably a bit delirious by that point.
Now he's got to do one more lap for life.
Oh, that's the race that has definitely no finish, Laz.
Yeah, it's funny how you look back on these things, and so much of it, because of the sleep deprivation, the memories are disjointed, and some of them you're not sure if they're real or not. I'll always have very vivid memories of last year's bigs when Maury missed the cutoff. because he fell in the woods. And the whole picture of the whole scene is in my mind, but I can't figure out how that picture fits in our front yard because it was like a whole different place. My mind had drawn my yard differently than it actually is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a bit of that towards the end of our race as well.
I think I remember you saying, Phil, that you thought that the road back was a different road to the road out.
Yeah, it did feel like that. It felt like we were doing a loop, not an out and back. But yeah, and then at one point I also thought that we'd done various different courses, and I was asking my crew, like, when were we on the other course? And it's like, you've only just been on the one course. But for some reason I pictured in my head that I'd been running somewhere else. And, you know, I knew we'd been running for 70 odd hours, but I thought we'd only been on the road course for like 10 hours or 20 hours or something. And we'd been running somewhere else on the previous days and then driven to a new location to do more laps at a different place. So
I had a moment at one point where I had to stop for about 10 seconds, and I convinced myself I'd taken a wrong turn, and it took me about 10 or 15 seconds to remember there were no turns on this course, so that I couldn't have taken a wrong turn. I could keep going.
You know, we had the whole field of little dots. When you're the road loop at night has a turn. It has one turn, you turn left. And they all went out and the whole field turned right, even including people who had run the race before. They said it seemed wrong, but everyone was going the other way. Not a lot of clear thinking goes on later on in a backyard.
And I imagine all the perception changes.
Yeah, and I imagine because the world looks different at nighttime than it does during the day, and it kind of looks a bit different in the morning than it does in the evening. We had a morning where it was really foggy. I think it was, I don't know if it was the first morning or the second morning, but it was really foggy, and the whole place just looks like a different world in that. So I reckon that's part of feeling like you're running on different courses. It's the same course, just in different light and different visibility and on a different day.
And you didn't have a bear, but did anybody see a wombat?
I saw an echidna, but no wombats.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw the echidna.
Oh,
a snake.
man.
I saw a snake.
Echidna would even be a cooler sighting than a wombat. My trip to relax Pete's place, I spent about a week out there trying to see a wombat. We finally spotted a wombat, and it went down into the drain hole under the road. It got in the middle and wouldn't come out. So all I've seen is a wombat's butt.
Did you see any echidnas when you were here, Laz?
But I did not, an echidna would have been even cooler because wombats don't lay eggs.
Yes, so an echidna is a monotreme, and there are only 2 monotremes in the world. What's the other one, Laz?
Well, the duck-billed platypus, of course.
Exactly. Well done.
And I didn't see one of those, although I went places where you could possibly see one.
Yeah.
The zoo, I saw them both at the zoo.
Your next trip to WA, Laz, you should go to one of the races in WA. Different world over there, and you'll see these guys running there. So you get Sean to invite you out to one of these events.
Yeah, we'd love to have you, Laz.
I would love to see WA. I've heard lots of things about it. The parts of it are somewhat flat.
Yeah, we don't have. We've got some hills here, but they're not huge hills. But yeah, the courses, the backyard courses we've got here are relatively flat. I think you get about 10 meters of elevation on birdies, and Hurdies it's like 1 meter, if that.
Now, is Birdie's the one that runs through a wildlife? Isn't there one in the WA that runs through a wildlife park where you would definitely see wildlife?
No, so Birdie's is done through some farm properties, and then Hurdies is done around a lake in the middle of the city. But you would see wildlife there. You get a lot of snakes around Herdsman Lake, and yeah, I think you get wildlife everywhere in Australia.
I would like to see the snakes from a distance, I like to see the snakes here, and I have a tendency to pick them up, but I know which ones here will kill me.
Yeah.
My assumption is
assume all
all
the
of your
Australian
snakes
ones will
might
kill you.
kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, all the Aussie ones are pretty much deadly, I think.
I can just as happily observe them from a slight distance. Well, I guess we really ought to let y'all go because it's Saturday afternoon and you probably have fun things to do. I did have one last question. Since it's already Saturday afternoon there, and the big game tomorrow is #1 Georgia against #2 Tennessee in college football, and you're already Saturday afternoon, you can tell me who wins the game.
Tennessee won.
Great.
Put your money on Tennessee.
All right.
I'm gonna go out and make a large wager. I'm amazed no one has thought of this loophole before.
Yeah, that's awesome. Gary, any closing comments from you before we close the session? And then we can close.
No, it was great to talk to him and hear some stories about what went on out there and the team championships. It's a fun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very different dynamic to your normal backyard. I really enjoyed it.
We're really excited to see you all guys next year at the individuals. It's going to be fun.
And then it's dog eat dog.